Today we will be talking about shepherd's pie, or cottage pie. The history for this dish is that it came out in the late 1700s and early 1800s. The shepherd's pie was originally called cottage pie, but now that we know, these are two completely different dishes, but very, very similar. Shepherd's pie originally came from Ireland, but it is enjoyed by many people around the world today, including me. Now, shepherd's pie, or cottage pie, came from the brilliant idea to preserve food rather than waste it. I do have to compare this part to my own family. My mother absolutely hates it when my brother, my dad, and I would always waste food. So she would always make a new dish from our leftovers. As in, it came from, from this dish. This dish came from the ideas of housewives when they got really tired of watching their husbands and children waste so much food. But with this brilliant idea, they combined the leftovers to create this dish. Now, shepherd's pie and cottage pie are different. Shepherd's pie is made with lamb or mutton, cottage pie is made with beef. The recipes for the dish vary widely depending on where you're from, what century it was from as well, generations, all of that. But they did have very similar ingredients, like with the same, mixed vegetables, mashed potatoes, some sort of meat, cheese, and more. The nutrient composition for shepherd's pie with beef, or just known as cottage pie. It would be 272 calories in 1 cup of cottage pie, 8.21 grams of fat, 34.46 grams of carbs, and 15.55 grams of protein. So for prevention or causes of diseases, we will be looking at raw potatoes. So as we know it, potatoes can cause more diseases than preventing them. And not only that, pests also have a massive impact on this as well. So the flea beetle, the Colorado potato beetle, the aphid, I believe that's how you pronounce it, I'm not quite sure, and the wireworm are known to affect the growth and conditions of the potatoes and the potato plant, which can cause mishaps later on down the road when after the potatoes have been harvested and stored and then we get our hands on them. There's a chance that something could go wrong. Again, pests can play into the roles for diseases, as in early blight, late blight, and the mosaic virus, which are not very good for any living creatures who decide to eat raw potatoes. Again, we are looking at the different aspects of raw potatoes. So, fresh and high quality of them. For good raw potatoes, they have to be solid, firm to the touch, and there was one other thing I did not put on here, but a nice earthy scent. For bad raw potatoes, that would be with wrinkles, a foul smell, shoots growing out any side of it. It'd have to be soft and mushy to the touch, as well as mold. You do not want to eat a moldy potato. Agricultural information for potatoes as well. Seasonality, it's a year-round plant to take care of, grow, harvest, all of that. So the first stage is to plant. Planting starts in early March and goes through till May, which it can vary depending on which state you are from due to weather and seasonal changes and conditions. Stage 2 is the bulking and blooming process. Stage 3 is from May to August, irrigation. Stage 4 is July to October for the harvest season. Again, depends on where you're from with the weather conditions and seasonal changes. And stage 5 is storage. Now, availability. As of recently, there has been a massive potato shortage around the world, which is causing a pretty big problem for people who are addicted to French fries and chips. So if you are one of those people, you might want to be a little concerned. You might not get those French fries and chips all that often anymore. Now, preparation for the dish. These will be the ingredients, and we will actually have a preparation slide next. So you either get 1 pound of ground beef or 1 pound of lamb or mutton, 2 cups of hot mashed potatoes, 4 ounces of Philadelphia cheddar cheese, 2 cloves of garlic, make sure it's minced, 4 cups of frozen mixed vegetables, and 1 cup of beef gravy. Only if you want it in the dish. I personally have never had it in this dish before, but it is good. I did put it in the dish that I made for this presentation. It was good. Now, the preparation part. Preheat the oven to 375 degrees. Brown the meat in a large skillet on the oven. On the stove. I am so sorry. While the meat is browning and cooking a bit, you will mix the potatoes, cream cheese, as well as a half a cup of the shredded cheese and garlic until it's very well blended. Once the meat is done browning, drain the meat and then return it to the skillet and mix in the vegetables and gravy. Then spoon it into a 9-inch square baking dish and cover it with the potato mixture. And then sprinkle the remaining half cup of shredded cheese that you did not use. That's where the last half cup comes in. You will then bake it for about 20 minutes or until it's heated all the way through. It can sometimes last or bake for a longer amount of time. I know the max amount of time my family has done has been about 40-45 minutes on a lower temperature just to try and keep it warm while we're trying to prepare the rest of the meal to go along with the shepherd's pie. But then after that, you would enjoy. Tasting. Yes, I have had shepherd's pie and cottage pie a few times before, but it's been many years since I last had any, except for the fact that I made it for this presentation. Now, this dish is full of flavor. The different spices you can taste, the flavorful meat mixed with the frozen vegetables, as well as what the gravy, the cheese, and so much more. Now here, I'll be showing you a set of pictures of how we were preparing it. So, for this, we were in Florida for spring break, and I wanted to go ahead and get on top of this presentation, so I was like, could we make this dish for my World Foods presentation? And they all really wanted to help. So here we are making the we are cooking the ground beef as well as the mashed potatoes, or the potatoes. And then on the right is where we're about to mix it up to make the mashed potatoes. On the left, this is after we drained the meat after it was done cooking and mixed in all the vegetables. And then on the right, this is where we put all of the meat and the vegetables into a dish. The left, that's where, that was after we put in all the mashed potatoes. My grandparents said, drag a fork along the top of the mashed potatoes so the cheese can sink in a little bit more. So that's what we did. And on the right, I know this looks really weird, but there's a really good reason why there's cheese on one part and no cheese on the other. I have a big stomach issue with cheese on foods, so this was one of the things that, like, one of my alterations to do, like, so I can still enjoy the same food they do, I just don't put cheese on top, and it's still good either way. But their side, they have cheese, my side, I don't. If I don't eat all the non cheese side, they can choose between no cheese or with cheese. And again, since we were down at the beach, I was like, let's just make a whole production out of it. So here you get to see the full setup of what I decided to make. So we did the shepherd's pie, some little pieces of bread, as well as a salad with strawberries. But I really loved this little setup idea. Alright, for the comparison, my mother would always make this for my brother and I, and then my dad as well, whenever she got the chance. But it wasn't as often, so it would be maybe once or twice a year as kids, because we rarely ever went out to go eat somewhere. It would always be home cooked meals. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. I loved that. My grandparents would also occasionally make this for every one of the grandkids. But again, not all the time, since so many other home cooked meals. But we will also make this dish whenever we have leftovers from previous meals. But this part I will absolutely emphasize. My mother, she does not like it when we waste food, no matter what. But when making this dish, when we don't have lamb, we are just basically making cottage pie. But when we do get our hands on the lamb or mutton, we will make the shepherd's pie with all the original ingredients. And then here's my site references slide.